Well, we're going to get started, and we're thankful for those who have jumped in, Jerry Dowdy and other North Carolinians. So we've got Carolina and Virginia represented well today. And we've got Brian Jones that's going to be getting started with us here in just a moment. But we're thankful for those who are logged in and want to remind you that our platform for doing our webinars has always been sponsored by Mid-Atlantic Christian University. We serve the same churches in the same region and our great ministry partners. So we're thankful that they basically fund our webinar platform for us. And as such, we've got more than 100 training videos for lay leaders in your churches over the last 5 or 6 years. Um, so this one today is more for ministers, preachers, and specific communicators. But our webinars are typically for elders, prayer team leaders, mission team leaders, safety and security team leaders, the leaders in your church that need resourcing and have very little help out there on how to do their area of ministry well. And our YouTube channel, if you check out our YouTube channel, Waypoint Church Partners, you'll see those, and they're also organized in playlists, so that you can kind of send a playlist just to your safety team leader or your prayer team leader, and there'll be 6 or 8 dedicated videos in that playlist. And but and so the one coming up next month is a missions one for your mission team leader about creating a partnership document with your missionary so that there's a good understanding of what your relationship with them is going to be. And then the next one after that will be one for elders in specific. Chad Simpkins from the Journey in Springfield is going to talk about another kind of document that puts on paper what our culture is going to be like as an eldership, and that's a really good document to have. So those are the kind of things that we try and resource you that we are thriving when your church is thriving, that we're winning when you're thriving and your leaders are thriving. But Brian, that is on our webinar today, has been a great friend of Waypoint for a long time, but has been presenting our Art of the Sermon webinars the last couple of years for us. And this year at our Art of the Sermon in Maryland, he was in actually in Johnson City, Tennessee. But we asked all of our presenters this year, hey, have a conversation about what you're doing, if anything, related to using AI as a tool for your sermon preparation. And Brian's presentation of that part of it at his presentation in Upper East Tennessee, I said right afterwards, dude, we got to figure out how to share some of that with preachers at large, not just the ones that were in Tennessee. And so we scheduled this right after the fact, and really here in just a moment want to give the stage to Brian to share the screen and let him go. We have another webinar that we did a year ago, that I did a year ago with Josh Burnett, that it's on our YouTube channel. Just about, hey, what's the deal with AI in ministry? Is it okay to use AI in ministry? And if so, what are the ways that you can use it? It's a little dated. It's sad to say that a year ago, the whole
I
world's
know.
changed in AI in a year. But even like with ChatGPT, they're saying, that 4.0 is so much better than 3.5. It's like light
Mhm.
years ahead. It's like it's 3.5 to 4 doesn't sound like that big a deal. Uh, but but if you want to watch a webinar with Josh Burnett, who was one of our church planters, and then left his church plant to found an AI ministry, Church.tech, and so which a lot of
That's
Canadian,
him. Okay.
yes.
All
All
right.
right. So he, if you're using sermon clips that are AI picked out and then
Mhm.
plastered out to your social media, that might be Josh's company. And so he kind of shared some of the genesis of using AI in ministry, and so you might want to watch that video as well. But I think we're going to be continuing to have conversations about using AI, the guardrails that you need to have, because it's the wild, wild west right now on what can happen with AI, but then also guidelines on how to use it well. And so I'd asked Brian specifically to kind of share how he's using AI with his sermon preparation and planning, promotion sermons and that. And so I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you're new to uh, the Zoom platform for webinars, there's a Q&A button, and as soon as you think of a question,
Yes.
just type it in, and we have it in a queue so that I can interrupt Brian at the right time and say, "Hey, Brian, so and so is asking this question." Don't wait for him to pause because that may never happen. But if you just type in a question as soon as you think of it, I'll try and get to it during the session.
That may
And
not happen.
it may not happen, but if it doesn't, then we've got a record of your question that we can try and answer after the fact for you as well. And so anyway, that being said, let me switch my view here just to Brian is front and center. But Brian, you should be able to share the screen yourself if you've got your own slides when we want to jump into that. But if you just
Okay,
want to tell us
good.
very quickly, I
Yeah.
didn't introduce
So,
you, Christchurch of the Valley, outside of Metro Philly, 20 years old, not quite. How old is the
25
church
years
plant?
old. 25
25-year-old
years old.
church plant.
Yeah, started in
And
2000.
all right. So yeah, I remember you visiting our church in a movie theater before you launched, and we were just about a year too old, so
Yep.
not far behind that one. And but just love the teaching that you've got for preaching in general, but specifically this whole new world that we're in for trying to be smart about can we use AI as a great tool to help us communicate really well. So go ahead and take the stage, and I'll
Okay.
try and interrupt as needed.
Okay. Honestly, just interrupt as needed. So all the people who are here, it's an honor. Tim and I are friends. We go way back, and it's a privilege to really help the Waypoint community. Where I come from with AI is I have a larger team that I'm teaching to preach, and they all have basic skill sets, but it's one in the age of hiring people from within. Not only are you the resident theologian, you're also the resident preaching professor and the resident, gosh, everything. Um, so I'm here from my home office. I always advocate for people who are in ministry to have a teaching office at home. If you have the room, this is old 400 year old wood we pulled from a barn. And so
Hmm.
these trees were growing when the Lenape tribe was in our area. So I have this environment that's very conducive for thinking at home. And then my office at the church is just a bunch of IKEA chairs and a glass board and a place for leadership. And so one of the key things that I think it is already disrupting ministry in a very, very good way is the use of AI. And AI is people have talked about AI being a tool that's gonna, Terminator 2, 3, 4, it's gonna end the world and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
I can't control that, but what I can control is like the Apostle Paul in First Corinthians 9, being all things to all people and using every available means to reach people with the gospel. And specifically with AI, I find this to be an incredible resource. So, um, very quickly, what is AI? When you go to Google and you type in a word or a phrase and it begins to auto complete the sentence, that's what is an anticipatory large language model. So basically, all this information keeps getting dumped into this, and it's trained based on past information to anticipate what's coming next. So when you give it a very specific prompt, it has already been trained like you would think of a Google AI sentence completer. And so the way that I've helped our teaching team use AI, first and foremost, we'll get into this in detail with sermon research. I'm going to assume that the lion's share of the people that are here are wanting to be able to get some good ideas of how to help with just overall ministry and preaching and that sort of thing. But AI, number one, sermon research and outlines. Number two, emails and newsletters. I never send out an email anymore that I haven't written myself and then I put it into AI and I give it the prompt, assume the identity of a copywriter who understands my voice. Do not change my words, but make any corrections that need to be made. Make these sentences flow better. And then at the end, I want you to ask me 3 questions that will allow me to give you information to better formulate the response that I need. And my gosh, I have it down now. It is my AI I have trained. AI becomes a ministry partner where you're having a conversation with yourself, but you're objective. Okay. So with my teaching team, we do service research, emails, newsletters, social media, content creation. We can talk about that. Small group discussion questions, leadership and vision planning. And so, where do we go from here? What do you want to talk about first, Tim? Do you want to talk about sermon creation and content? You want to talk about leadership? How do you want to go from here?
Yeah, I think mostly sermon creation, sermon planning, and sermon research, and
Okay.
what you're doing and intentionally not doing for any
Okay.
particular reason. And really any kind of in my mind, I'm curious about any kind of like ethical questions that you have about how you're using AI for sermon
Absolutely.
research.
Absolutely. So let me, if people understand the basics of AI, I can go very deep on preaching very quickly.
Yeah,
Is
let's
that
go
okay
in.
with you?
Yeah, let's go into the preaching first, and then we'll see what other time we've got for other
Okay.
applications.
Okay. You're just going to, a callback sort of church service. I need you to keep amen in me so I know you're on. All
All right,
right,
you're
let's
doing
go
good.
deep. I'm going to tell you very specifically how I go deep. This is what I teach my teaching team to do. Number one, sermons
Uh,
always begin with a sermon series for me. And so, Tim, I want you to call out a passage of a sermon give me a passage of scripture, like a chapter or two. We'll just do it
All right.
together.
Yeah, John chapter 5.
John
Um,
5.
yeah,
Okay. All right. So, we're just going to do a whole series on John 5, or let's say we're going to do it on the book of John. All right. Let's just say we're going to do it on the book of John. All right. So I want you to notice here, I have created what is called my own GPT. If for those of you who are using ChatGPT and you're going into it, you're using it all wrong. So let's go deep real fast. You're going to be at
yep.
ChatGPT and you're going to say, you're going to click the button on the side where it says explore GPTs. You're going to go over here, you're going to click this button right here that says create, and you are going to create a GPT. So we're going to call this Tim's sermon series generator. All right.
um,
Um, put the text in and see what Tim pops out. Okay. So you're
All
going to
right.
put up here as a reminder, you're basically going to say, you're going to create a sermon series. Now, a sermon series, always when you're creating a prompt, you're going to say, assume the identity of who's someone you love that preaches, Tim.
Brian Jones.
Okay. Brian Jones. and, and and I want you to create a sermon series based on and notice these phrases, the voice, the style, and unique viewpoint of Brian Jones. Okay. So,
All right.
first thing I want you to know about ChatGPT is you can put all kinds of mistakes in there, grammatical mistakes, so we'll keep going. So, a good prompt is always assume the identity of. Then you're going to say, you're going to give it the directions. Create, um, or just say, this sermon series should be 5 weeks long. And I want you to come up with a series. I want you to come up with how many series titles do you want, Tim? 5 series titles.
Yep. And it'll
And
come up with as many as you ask for, right?
you will tell it series titles using the creative team at Life Church for images and um, direction, and then you're going to say you will give me you will give me 3 such sermon series. Each series will have 5 sermons with creative titles and a main point and scripture, and then you're going to be specific. That will usually be the main, and I'm going to use New Testament language, pericope, the main section of a passage. And then for fun, give me 5 secular songs that could be sung beforehand, as well as 5 Christian, let's just say hymns. Okay.
Sure.
And then we're going to go over here. So you've put all this in here. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to copy this, and I want you to come over here, and I want you to open ChatGPT again on another thing. Hit ChatGPT and say, I want you to improve this prompt and ask me 3 questions. Okay. So put a couple dashes in there. I drop it in. I hit this, and it's going to give me a better version. Whenever you're giving a prompt or creating a GPT, you always want to say, ask me 3 questions about this. All right. So assume the voice, theological depth of Brian Jones, 5-week sermon titles. Each of the 3 series must include this and this and this for fun and cultural engagement. Provide this. Here are the 3 questions. Tim, tell me what the answers are. Number 1, who is the primary audience? Unchurched seekers, mature believers, burnout Christians, suburban churchgoers. Who is it?
Um, well, in my case, as church planter, be unchurched seekers, or
Unchurched
uh,
seekers. And what's the answer to number 2? Which
uh,
side do you want to lean on? Prophetic, emotional, or poetic?
emotional healer, just for fun.
Emotional healer. And then number 3, is there a season or moment in your church's calendar you're aiming for?
Yeah, post Easter.
Post Easter. Now give me the prompt back to me. This is important. Give me the prompt. What a lot of people do when they're using ChatGPT is they're reinventing the wheel every single time. And the reason you create your own GPT is you're going to go ahead now, you're going to memorize this. You're going to give this back to the machine as a GPT in any time. And you'll see it here in a second. Let's putting this out. Okay, this is good. I'm going to copy it. I just find it's easier for me to show this to go into another chat GPT. You're going to paste it there. These are the instructions. I've given it
Hmm.
to him and it's improved it. I'm going to go here now and I'm going to hit create. It's only for me, and I'm going to hit save.
Brian,
Okay.
let me interrupt you. Is this
Uh-huh.
functionality to create your own GPT? Is that for the
Yes.
free version or only in the subscription version of ChatGPT?
I wish I knew the answer. I
All
have the
right.
one that's 19.99.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
um,
just GPT
well,
Plus. Uh,
can
so,
you, let's
but I
ask
could,
it, can you create your own GPT in the free version? Nope. Okay, so you
uh,
got to pay 19.99. Trust me, skip your next meal. This is very important. Now watch this. We've created this. Okay. So we've gone and we've created Tim's sermon generator. Take the Gospel of John and give me sermon series, right? Boom. Now watch. Come and see encounters with Jesus and John in a world that leaves us straying, confused, and often numb. Gospel of John offers this simple, profound invitation. Come and see. Week 1, what are you looking for? Week 2, can anything come from this? Week 3, why are you crying? And you're going to say, so it's going to take a while to do that, to go ahead
Mhm.
and prompt that out, or to go ahead and spit that out. This is a good place to just stop and say this. Every single time you use ChatGPT, you want to keep refining it. So here we are. Those were the sermons it gave. Here we are, a whole rambling mixture of different songs. And you can say, give me a second one. What I find with ChatGPT is it's not going to waste your time. Here we go. Here's one called Unburdened, when Jesus set you free. Okay. And so it will go through and it will give me all of that again. Okay. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about this. So every single time when I first used ChatGPT, I would go and I would create a Microsoft Word file that said sermon series creator, and I would just go, and I didn't realize, oh, ChatGPT has its own way of saving it, and every single time you use it, it gets better. Okay, and so rather than saving a prompt, let me just say this: when you're using ChatGPT or any large language model, if all you do is keep going back to the basic screen and asking it questions, essentially it's not going to be storing as much of the information about you to help shape the way it answers the questions. So you're going to notice here, I want to go through the GPTs that I've created.
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
love to know that. 'Cause I was just going to ask, so I can have a chat GPT about the kind of outreach events I want to have at my church, and then it's going to know how I think and work through that.
Oh, yeah. So this is going to be the best takeaway from this whole thing. So
Yeah.
let's go to explore GPTs, and I'm going to give you underneath the hood of everything that I have. So, Tim sermon generator, it's there. I have a
Hmm.
sermons. Here's sermon series generator is my version of this.
All right.
I'm writing a book on a passage in First Thessalonians, and I've taken every single commentary in First Thessalonians. I've taken every single article. I've done deep research from ChatGPT, and I've input all of that into this. So I feel like I have my own master's class of information there. I'm talking original background material, language, Greek, Hebrew, everything going on in the Second Temple period, stuff like that. Nurture sequence emails for those of you who have social media, and you should have a nurture sequence. For people that are going and finding your website, there ought to be something free you're giving them, which is a lead magnet. We're reinstituting this new one I have. So I have a little ebook that I wrote called um, Why Most People Will Never Be Happy. And if you go to my Instagram, for instance, and so Pastor Brian Jones on Instagram, and so then it will list my website, and you go to the website and it will say, get this free ebook when you sign up for the newsletter. The nurture sequence emails are the emails that you send to someone who signs up immediately. All churches are missing this. All churches are doing online ministry backwards. If you farm essentially every time you're sending out these ads and that sort of thing, you need to create a lead generator, and you need to create a nurture sequence emails, which is essentially 3 to 6 emails that you will send them in a row to get to know you, like you, and trust you. All right. Um, Soren Kierkegaard is a major influence in my life, and so I put all my writings and quotes from Soren Kierkegaard in there. And if I have a question, I'll say, "What does Soren think of this?" Instagram expert advice. Um, Whenever someone is uh, or whenever I'm thinking, what should I do in Instagram? I've taken every single ebook, every single person, and I've crammed all of that in there in this prompt to give me advice on Instagram. I'm also writing a book from a passage in Matthew, so I've done the same thing with a Matthew scholar. And then done the Greek analysis with some very particular books like Kittle and a different dictionary in the New Testament, theology, and different things. Advice from the Council of Mentors. This is every single book that I have ever read that has touched me deeply. I have gone and I have pulled all of those quotes out. And the Council of Mentors, I'll be sitting with a situation. Should I do this? Should I hire this person? Should I and I'll just ask it any kind of question, and it will give me all of this feedback from the Council of Mentors. So let's say right here. Are you still there?
Yep. Yep. You're doing good.
Okay. My screen is frozen for some reason.
Yeah. It's on the GPTs.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to log off and come back in. So if you can get a question from people,
Yep.
I'm going to log back in. Okay. Give
Well,
me a
I
second.
can say, Brian, as you're doing that, I had a group of church planters together a couple weeks ago, and that was a eureka moment for me. As one planter shared that he was asking AI how to better ask his own questions. To he took a prompt just like you did, and went into the GPT and said, "Write my prompt for me better." And so you're using ChatGPT to teach you how to ask your own questions to GPT.
Yeah.
And
So give
that
me a minute here. I'm going to have to reboot. I'm sorry.
all right, all right. So he's going to come back. All right, and related to that other question, if you've got a question for Brian, go ahead and type that in your Q and A. But this session will be available on our YouTube channel in about a week. And so you can go back and we will have a document also that shows some of the prompts that he's had. That'll be on associated with it in the show notes. But that's the value of being with us online, is that you get to ask questions to the presenter. So if you've got a question today about, hey, what do you mean by this and what do you mean by that? That would be great. Brian, you still with us? Oh, he's logging out. Hopefully he reappears. So, so if you're on the line with us today, go ahead and ask or let us know how you're using that on ChatGPT on the chat side, not ChatGPT, but chat side, or in the Q&A. Give us a question about what Brian just presented. I'd love to see him click into some of those so that we can see some of what he's doing in each one of those individual GPTs. Let's see if he comes back, but go ahead and hit either Q&A or the chat button to let us know. All
All right.
right,
I'm back.
you're back.
Okay. So, any questions? Don't I want to show you the remainder of the GPTs that I have.
All right.
I have created a GPT where I have taken all the notes, all the feedback from every doctor, every I had, gosh, I've sat down with every kind of mental health professional, everything that I have, life planning. When I sat down and I did a life plan, every single possible thing. I've taken my DISC test, my Myers Briggs, I've taken the Enneagram, I've taken everything about me, and I've input that into my own GPT.
Mhm.
And so let me go ahead.
So that's just the Brian Jones GPT. That's
That's what you can create if you go and you can yes, I've created that myself. So so let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So we'll do this and then we'll jump back into the sermon stuff. So, um, Council of Mentors, Lucy Goodman is an ideal avatar, someone that I'm writing a book to and using her to basically Christian books are written to 41-year-old women that with 3 kids and that sort of thing. Um, Article title generator, whenever I'm writing a blog post or something to that effect for social media, I will ask it. I'm not very good at coming up with titles and or subtitles. I've created this one. Carousel posts on Instagram, individual sermon research, and we'll come back to that. So every single time I go to write a sermon, I will take time to go into ChatGPT and let me show you the back end of this. And this is the most important prompt that you can create. So I have given this to so many pastors who basically have used it. And I want you to take it and I want you to make it better. Now, in order to show you this, I went ahead and I pulled this out. Can you see this where it says individual sermon prompt master version?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I want you to steal this. So this is probably the 30th iteration of this prompt. Okay. So insert the passage I'm preaching from, create 3 separate sermons, exactly 2,000 words long, based on the passage. Each sermon have a distinct angle while remaining the original meaning, deeply transformative, blah, 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 that sort of thing. All right. Research identity. Assume the master's identity of a master researcher with the theological insight of Kyle Idleman, the strategic clarity of Andy Stanley, and the bold prophetic urgency of Brian Jones. So it has my voice in there. I have a basic way that I structure my messages. I call it introduction, explanation, and application. However you structure your messages, that's where you want to put that in, where it says, my typical sermon is going to be an introduction, 3 points, 2 points, whatever it is. You're going to put that there. The sermon structure, for me, the way I structure my sermons, I went in here and I'm telling it how to write a sermon for me. All right. Sermon structure.
Mhm.
I have in the first like 10 minutes, jab, 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 right hook. So the first jab is some current cultural moments, psychological study, build the tension with a Christian classic insight, some cultural commentary. I build the tension in the bridge. And in the right hook, I say, we're in the middle of this series called Alexa, Fix My Family. So I preach the same sermon 52 different times, same structure. All right. When I get to the middle where I'm breaking apart the passage, I read the passage. I want it to give me the historical insights of 100 years leading up to that. I want you to explain how this passage fits with the wider message of the book. And then I give it all this detail, 2 relevant cross references, Old Testament, New Testament, 2 scholarly quotes. And then I want it to give me 2 quotes from this Christian list of these people: Platt, Chan, Idleman, Lewis, Chesterton. These are the people I tend to vibe with. Nuggets are basically insights, and I want you to start each of them with I want you to notice. And then the application is offer 1 clear, actionable step. And then each sermon must deliver a distinct angle, 3 potential YouTube sermon titles. Remember, when we preach, it's preached twice. It's preached once in person, and then it's preached forever on YouTube. Um,
Mhm.
and here's the tone, the non-negotiables. Do not submit a sermon that's over or under. Use this structure, keep it simple. And then before crafting the sermons, answer these 3 questions to guide the process. What specific fear, burden, and desire is this passage uniquely positioned? What modern metaphor or cultural tension? What real world transformation? Okay, so now what I want to do is I just want to go back and say I am so I have loaded that into and created my own GPT. Now I have my own GPT to go and say, give me a passage, Tim.
Um, Proverbs 31.
Okay. I am preaching a sermon on Proverbs 31. That's all I have to do. And here we go.
Yeah. So is this
Now,
building this out, the obvious question someone's going to ask, you said we can steal that. After the fact, I'll try and get uh, like a PDF of that we can attach to the show notes.
oh
Uh,
yeah, I'll give you Word documents of every single prompt that I have.
all
I'll
right.
send it to you.
Yeah, and we'll
So it's
forward.
asking. So it's asking right now three clarifying questions. Which
Hmm.
section am I focusing on? Number one, I'll just say verses 10 through 11, or 10 through 31.
Yeah.
Question number two, what's the series theme or focus? Let's just call it Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And then three, what's your intended audience? I'm a suburban Philadelphian congregation, but let's say this is a rural North Carolina audience. And I hit it. All right. So let's see what it gives me. All right. Passage, occasion, audience. Three distinct sermons. Follow the format. All right. It's going to take probably 60 seconds to spit this thing out.
Yeah.
So a couple things let's just talk about when this spits it out. ChatGPT is going to give you about 800 words. You ask it for 2,000 words. I have never, ever had it. Um, let's go one at a time. I have never had it deliver 2,000 words, and I've never used ChatGPT as a verbatim content thing.
Yeah.
Okay. um, what strength looks like, or when strength looks like love. Here we go. Perfect. So this is giving me my first jab, the second jab, and this is essentially giving me a sermon that I could stand up and preach. And I'm a little different when it comes to using other people's sermons. When I was at a church plant and I was straight out of seminary, I had no idea what I was doing, and I preached Bob Russell sermons for a year. And I went to the Bob Russell School of Preaching, and I preached his sermons, and I took out the personal messages, but this was back in the Bob Russell Tape Club years, where you get a
Yep.
cassette tape, and I would basically go and type it out, which taught me more about preaching than anything. And after a year, Bob Russell taught me how to preach. I encourage pastors to do this. To me, ChatGPT is no different than this. I Everything that I just gave you, I gave to every single person on my team. When they preach, you don't have I'm looking at a wall of 4 shelves of books, right? As the senior pastor, I have all these commentaries that I have amassed and that sort of thing. But somebody I just hired that has a teaching gift, they're not going to have that, but they can get that using ChatGPT. So here are these different things. And so when you look at this, you're going to have a sermon. So I when I tell my staff specifically, here's what I tell them to do. I tell them to study the passage. I tell them to put down all the observations that they can amass from that. I tell them to put all their insights down. And then I say, go ahead and I want you to write an actual outline. Right now, I want you to use my formula: introduction, explanation, application. And I want you to go ahead and create your own outline, and I want you to take a stab at naming it. Okay. Then I want you to give it another day. Come back tomorrow, and I want you to take this. And as you've thought of stuff, I want you to add it all in there. So you got all your material. Then you want to take my prompt and you want to input everything. Take my words, don't change my words, make them better, expand on them, and then it will spit out the revised version in this insight. And then people who are new to preaching will look at that and they'll learn from that. They're like, oh, I see this. See what Bob Russell, what people don't realize about what's Bob Russell great about? Bob Russell is great because of the transitions. He has fantastic transitions between thoughts. Um, the culminating point when it brings that sort of thing. So I am a big advocate of taking your ideas, put it into ChatGPT, and having it work on those and then give them back to you. I just want to say, I don't do that, but I'm 58 years old and I've been preaching for a long time. But I have a guy who is in his mid 20s who's preaching this summer for the very first time in front of a lot of people. And I don't know about you, Tim. The first time I preached, it was to my home church on a Sunday night. They gave me 20 minutes and I gave them 10 minutes back. I'm like, that's all I need. I've told
Mhm.
you everything I know in 10 minutes. And so, but I want to give him the confidence that to me, ChatGPT is the thing that can boost you up. The other thing is when you're a senior pastor and you've done a wedding and a funeral and there was a counseling appointment and there's some issue with someone on your elder board and they're being like you just have the life sucked out of you. You have this right here as a tool that can give you in a very difficult time a workable outline where you can put your material into it.
Yeah. Let me stop you right there and ask you a couple
Yep.
questions, Brian, or address a couple of things with just a few minutes we got left. And this obviously says we've got a lot of work to do as far as learning all this together, because we've just scratched the surface. But I think you're showing for some people that have a reservation about, is AI going to be writing my sermon content rather than me sharing with my
Oh,
congregation
no,
what I
no.
think they need to hear? And the Holy Spirit is telling me as their pastor, this is what we need to preach from and about this next month. I think there's this fear that that all of a sudden AI is going to be deciding for you what your church needs to hear. But I think when you go to the paid subscription, you create your own GPT. Now, are you loading your sermons into your own preaching
So what I
GPT?
so what I will do is, well, first of all, I just want to say the one thing AI is going to do is it's going to separate very clearly ministers who are preaching with the direction and the power of the Holy Spirit and people who are regurgitating all of these GPTs for sermons. Okay. Um, all open AI or Grok or whatever, all of these different platforms do is they aggregate human intelligence. So sermons, I think, is it's a portion is your personality, a portion is the text, a portion is the Holy Spirit, and a portion is your people.
Mhm.
ChatGPT, I think, is helping you talk to yourself, and I can never it might rework it might here's what it's worked for me. I'm terrible at coming up with titles. If you've read a title that's good for a sermon, ChatGPT came up with it. I don't care. ChatGPT came up with it. It's better at doing that. If you came up with a subtitle for a sermon, but the material is mine. The material is what I've come up with. It's what prompted me to go and do more research. So when I do a sermon, the first thing is sermon series, a sermon series GPT. I then input sermon series research for that, and then what I do is once I'm done writing the sermons, because we are a sermon based small group church, I will take and let me go ahead and share. This is a fantastic tool.
I've got a question about this once you've shared it.
Uh-huh. So, sermon-based small group generator, right? I'm providing a sermon. I need you to create small group questions. And so I want you to give me 6 icebreaker questions. 3 of them are light, fun, relational. 3 of them are reflective, personal. And then substantive group questions. Give me 15 to choose from. And 50% of them direct Bible verses that are used in the sermon. 50% should flow out of the Bible verses. and then final challenge questions, and then the tone and the style. Use the clear, warm, conversational tone of small group pastors from churches like Life Church and Church on the Move. Make the questions sound natural, not too formal, not too theological, while still going deep. Okay. So then I'll input the sermon in there. I will then also, um, here's the next GPT that I will use. I will say, can you see that? Sermon series title and concept generator prompt.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Assume the identity of Kyle Heidelman, Andy Stanley, whoever you like, whoever you are most like. Use the scripture verses from the NIV. And this is a GPT that very specifically is about where I want good sermon titles. Give me a series title that are bold and clear. Um, Give me the sermon breakdown, that sort of thing. Here is another one that I used. Here's a sermon title prompt. Once I'm done preaching a sermon, can you see this sermon title and social caption prompt? I'm
Got it.
uploading my sermon. I want you to give me a YouTube title, 5 standout sermon titles, and then give me captions, right? And here's exactly this. Um, all of these GPTs, I'll give to you, and then you can put them in the show notes,
All
and
right.
then people can use them. So
So my, so
you're
my,
asking,
so my question with that, any of those, but like the small group questions is I'm really picky about my small group questions. I teach
mhm.
seminars on good
Oh yeah,
small group question writing because I think most of them are really lame for a variety of reasons. Um, but so it starts writing small group questions. That's the brilliance of AI is as I say, is that I can teach it what I want. And so can you
yes.
address that a little bit? Is how you would teach AI, no, these kind of questions I don't like, these kind of questions I do.
Yeah. So I will say I'm not our small groups person, but what I
Mhm.
do is simply as a service. Um, I want to create questions that I give my team and say, hey, you're going to create your own questions off of these. You're
Yeah.
not coming back to me. Just take these. This is just an initial prompt. The other thing that I'll do is there's another prompt is I will take my sermon and it will input it into a carousel creator, social media post generator, and a real text generator that can be put over a B-roll. Okay. So I
Mhm.
take my sermon, and a lot of pastors like, man, I don't have time for my sermon. You write a sermon every single week. I love all of these other companies that are developing their own AI systems as a service to pastors. And if you don't have the interest or time to go and create your own individual GPTs, those are fantastic options. But you can create this yourself. I want a carousel post of 10 images based off the big ideas of my sermon. And I want you, and I'm going to show you this. I want you to go, and you'll see this. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
For those of you who, if I'm in a smaller church and I don't have money for like someone to go and create a an image for me, there is right down here, all of these where it says GPTs. These are all GPTs that you can use. And if I'm a guy, I'm alone, I'm creating my own sermon series. You take my prompt, the sermon, all of that, social media, everything. Scroll down here to DALI, click that,
Mhm.
start the chat, and say, I need an image for Matthew 10 verses 10, 1 through 6, a, a series image. All right. I don't even know what it's going to create, right? Okay. Behold, I'm sending out like wolves. Okay, great. Here we go. Visual interpretation on the part. Here's a concept breakdown. What it's going to do, you're going to see here white dove. Okay. Lighting. It's what it's doing. It's generating an idea for an image. And then you're going to say, would you like this image to be realistic, painted, stylized? Let's call it stylized and hit it. Boom. And watch what it does.
Ron, I don't know if you've done this while we're waiting for that to generate, but talked with a preacher last week, and he's got a headset to where he doesn't type a word for this whole process. It's
Oh,
all
sure,
audio.
yeah. Okay,
It's
now
all
these
audio.
images are stupid, right? So I'm gonna say, no, I want it to be more realistic as an actual rugged, realistic wolf, that sort of thing. But I just wanted to show you that
Yeah,
you can go to DALL-E, an individual, it's a free thing. You can also go to Canva and you can hook up your Canva. Canva, you can have a subscription for $9.99 a month. You hook up Canva and you say, I need a sermon series image, and then you'll put your prompt in there. It'll give you three different ideas, and then it will take you over to your Canva and it will say, what about this? And you can go and you can change a couple things and you're done. I have someone on my staff that is a full-time person who's like, bro, I'm scared to death of this because I do this full time at your church, right? The
mhm,
images, the video, all these sorts of things. But now I'm telling you, man, when I was at a church, I was at a church plant, and I joke all the time about how this church zoomed like a rocket from 150 to 150 in 3 years, right? Just soared, right? And I'm depressed. I'm not going anywhere, and I got some good feedback. And when I got my head put on straight, and I was like, I can do this. God can do this through me. We're committed. If I would have had this tool, oh my gosh, it would have been life changing. Life changing. The fact that pastors are weary of this, man, you just trust your integrity of this. You know when you're crossing the line with a tool. This is a fantastic tool to use for ministry. It supercharges, it makes it faster, it makes you more disciplined. All it is, AI, at the end of the day, is you are putting your idea, your brain into your GPT, and you're asking it, what would you do about this? What would you do about this? And I just, what a great tool for ministry. My
yeah.
goodness.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you there. We're out of time, and we're just scratching the
Okay.
surface. But I think you just hinted at. Well, you started off by saying the word disruptor, and it reminds me of 30 years ago when we were starting in ministry that the whole new thing of the internet was coming out.
Oh, yeah,
And there were these conversations 30 years ago about should we be using the internet to help us write our sermons, you
absolutely.
know, and there are people going, I don't know about that. It's like now which of us out there doesn't use the internet in some way to speed up our research process, and we can go to a digital interlinear and find out all the ways this Greek word's been used in Scripture, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that was a disruptor 30 years ago, and so now
Yes.
here we are, 30 years later, with the next
Mhm.
disruptor
And
saying,
get on the wave. Don't be a lag. You be a leader in this technology and you use it as much as you possibly can. Man, it has infiltrated. We're redoing our website, and every single page that you go to, when you're at a page, you want to read text, you want to see a video, and we're going to create avatars for our children's ministry person to be there to be able to ask questions. Hey, this is just an avatar of me, and this is Melissa, our children's pastor, but we wanted to let you know how excited we are for you. And if right here, if you want to chat, now, of course, it's not me, but we've put all the information in there. Do you have any questions you would like to ask? And I got to be honest, I would love to meet you and your kids on Sunday morning at
mhm,
Valley Kids. We meet at 9 and 10. Why would you not do that? Why would you not do that? It's
yeah,
mind blowing. So anyway, so all the people who are here, jump into get a subscription. It's worth it. Jump into it, and I'll give all of these prompts to Tim, and then Tim, you can share them. So
all right, Brian, it's amazing. Thank you for even open up, let us look behind the curtain of Oz, and
yeah,
it's absolutely amazing what we can discover if we're willing to jump in. So thanks for your time and your partnership, your friendship,
you got it,
and
man. Love you
and
guys.
your
Love what you're
and
doing.
yeah, I love how you love preachers. So thanks for your help.
Take care, bro. We'll see
All
you
right.
guys. Take
Yep.
care.
As soon as I stepped foot on MacU's campus, I learned that community was a big part of the university.
You're going to find yourself in a community of faith. You're going to find yourself in a community that loves you and accepts you.
It's a great opportunity to grow as a person.
I feel like MacU is equipping me to be able to defend my faith and help others no matter where I'm put in life.
My faith and religion is much stronger since being here.
We here have a purpose of trying to help you to become the person God's called you to be, to make a difference in the world as a leader. And while there's plenty of places that offer wonderful opportunities, having that focus, I really do think makes a difference.
The professors here, the students, we all want to see each other grow, and you're going to be loved, you're going to be welcomed, and they're always going to care for you.
The professors want to get to know you. You're not just a number.
Come take a tour, see what campus life is all about. I truly think that everyone who comes here is here for a reason.
There's so many opportunities for you. There's something for everybody.
You become part of something bigger than yourself when you come to Mid-Atlantic.
You see these students come in, some of which are very unsure of even why they're here, and they leave prepared to go do something great for the world.